as Malaysian, we are so fortunate that we are so rich in cultures, religions, and we all celebrate differences here in Malaysia.
B40 having to spend more. How ironic is that, right?
Malaysians generally, regardless of the economic situation, generally Malaysians love to spend.
The sad part, people don't have guilt over it.
I do wonder how it is people are able to spend that much.
Salam Aidilfitri everybody and Selamat Hari Raya. You're watching yet another episode of Beyond the Headlines, the go-to space for the top stories that made the headlines and more. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about what else? Raya. But not only that, we're going to talk about unity and how you're spending your earnings. My name is Amalina Kamal.
And I'm Hazwin Hassan. That's right, Amalina. We know Raya is all about forgiveness and togetherness, but let's be real. It's also a season of spending. From Baju Raya to Duit Raya to the endless open houses, Malaysians go all out. But with rising costs and economic shifts, how are people balancing between celebration and financial responsibility?
Indeed. And on top of that, how are we actually putting and staying true to the spirit of Muhibah? And of course, for this, we do have our special guest that's on set. Who do we have, Hazwin?
Yes, we have two very special celebrities almost, people joining us on set today. We've got Muhammad Ahmad Hamdan, NSC's Business Times editor and TV3 news anchor, or Ahmad as we all call you, right? Ahmad,
Right.
welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm not too sure about special celebrity, but yeah, well, thank you for having me. Selamat Hari Raya to the both of you.
Thank you. And next to Ahmad is TV3's news anchor and journalist Farah Wazer.
Hello.
Welcome.
Selamat Hari Raya to both of you.
Thank you, Selamat
Thank you
Hari
for
Raya.
having me and also Muhammad here.
All right.
We're so excited to be here actually.
We're excited.
Thank you.
Our first time.
here in your studio. So
Yeah, well, we love to have you debut and definitely have you on more again soon.
Inshallah.
But I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. But you both are very familiar faces. I think every night people watch you reading the news, Bulletin Utama and Ahmad Nightline. So we're all part of this huge, big media prima family, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's great to finally have everybody here together,
Yeah.
especially during Raya.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome to our humble
Yeah, why
set.
did we
Thank
do
you.
this sooner, right?
Right.
We should have, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they did move in some time ago. This should have happened a lot sooner.
well, okay.
That's a first time for everything, but it's nice to have you both here on Beyond the Headlines first.
Everyone all squeezed into this
Mhm.
building.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but anyway, we're talking about squeezing, togetherness, rubbing shoulders. But of course, what does that all mean? Again, unity. And I don't want to start, the podcast episode in such a doom and gloom way, right? But the
right.
past few weeks, we've seen on social media how there have been like certain quarters of our society that have been trying to, I suppose, attack a certain communities without even looking at the stability of the nation. And I just want to ask our guests this first, maybe Farah, in terms of what small everyday actions should Malaysia look out for, especially in the spirit of Muhibah here. And we're talking about Hari Raya. We want to move on from having to divide people further, right?
I think Lola and also Hazrin, I think we are Malaysians, and I think as Malaysian, we are so fortunate that we are so rich in cultures, religions, and we all celebrate differences here in Malaysia. So when we talk about unity, it's something that we do on a daily basis. For example, for Raya, we always have open houses. We invite friends and families, and also we go to their places to eat lemang ketupat and also to basically be together under one roof to celebrate the festivity together.
Enjoy different types of delicacies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's so simple. Unity is so simple actually. It's a simple concept. It's where people come together and celebrate their differences. Doesn't matter whether you have differences in any sort of issues or
Beliefs.
anything. Yeah,
Understand.
beliefs or anything. But during Raya, open houses, we all come together and be one as Malaysians.
I mean, it's true because the past month we saw how people from different communities also come together for buka puasa, and I've seen even non-Muslim taking up the challenge of fasting and
Fasting, yeah.
documenting their
That's right.
journeys.
Or even going to the bazaar.
Yes,
You
yes.
can see every race there. So it's
Yeah.
a That's the beauty of Malaysia.
That's the rising trend that we have observed, particularly over the last few years, where non-Muslims jumping on the bandwagon, trying to fast, and also, going to bazaars and trying out all different food sold at bazaars. So I mean,
And also, I've
it's
seen
great.
online now, Mama, that people from like other races, they're trying baju, they're reviewing baju kurung,
Oh, that's
baju
right,
raya.
yes.
So I think it's so nice to see that.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I do love this sort of like shared cultural experience. But personally, I do feel, because as journalists ourselves, right, we go down on the ground. Sometimes we interview these people on very tough topics. And at the end of the day, the main thing that they want is just stability, especially when it comes to their economic standing, healthcare, and things like that, basic access to basic needs. Actually, what we want and our needs is all the same. It's sometimes, made complicated with certain rhetorics. And I wish that Malaysians can at least, to some extent, be bigger than what is being thrown around or what is being politicized in that sense, right? So on that, Farah, again, I just want to ask you this in terms of Hari Raya, how have you prepared, or do you have experiences of coming together with people or friends of different religions, celebrating your own tradition, and how was that like for you?
Oh, okay. So actually, during it all starts with Ramadan also. Like, okay, when we talk about Raya, specifically, during Raya, I always host for open house at my place. So usually we do potluck. So my friends from all sorts of, different races and all, they all come together.
Right.
They cook, a lot of them try to cook rendang, kuah kacang, or even lodeh, and come to my house and bring their dishes to my house, and then we're gonna like eat together. So that is something that I do every year.
How
That is
long has
some-
it been for? How many years you've been
I
doing
think
this?
probably five,
Wow.
6 years.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I always invite my friends over, and they come to my house. We have potlucks together, and I think that is something that I look forward to every single
year.
time, every year.
So
during
this is
Raya.
not just Selamat Hari Raya to family, but also to friends, right?
Yep.
Friends in our circle.
Yes, yes.
Speaking of Raya open houses, food is the centerpiece of any festive celebration. Now you've got the ketupat, the rendang, and the lemang, you name it. But when we're talking about indulging, there's a growing concern, especially when it comes to food wastage during this festive period.
Exactly. And every year we see mountains of uneaten food thrown away. And it's not just a waste of money, it's also a waste of resources. So, how do we celebrate responsibly while still keeping our tables festive?
Well, who better to guide us than the legendary Dato' Chef Wan himself? Earlier on, we spoke to him on the matter, so let's have a look.
Tak payah datuk-datuk lah. Just chef one pun enough already. Anyway, thank you for having me on the show today. Yeah, I can't believe, kata pejam celik, kata here we are, again.
And Selamat Hari
another
Raya, Dato'.
Yes, and Selamat Hari Raya to everyone as well. Here we are, back to the same story as well. So where do we begin?
That is right. Food waste have been surging dramatically during these times, with some reports estimating up to 20,000 tons, metric tons of food wasted daily. So why do you think Malaysians tend to over-prepare, and how can we change this wasteful habit?
Yeah.
I know, being orang kata also a restaurateur, in this food business, of course we are also facing the same issue as well. Every Ramadan is always a nightmare to see, how much food is being presented and how much food is orang kata left at the table lah. And that goes, I would say, in every hotel and restaurant lah, not just in this country, in fact the whole world. And the sad part, people don't have guilt over it. That's the sad part. Sedangkan Ramadan, kita semua tahu, we all know, is the month where we try to exercise,
Self-control.
self-control, constraints, so forth and so forth lah. As we know, every year we've been talking about the same Ramadan ni kan. So and yet, people somehow lose themselves, through this weakness. So I guess that's why Ramadan is always up for the challenge. For the challenge, whether kita ni jenis pembazir, atau we just like to overspend things and then overindulge, and sometimes can be a bit of a show off as well, without we realizing that we do that. Yeah.
But Dato, like for our audience, how are you playing your part in controlling the amount of food waste?
Okay, firstly, as a person who's running a restaurant, we always look at the number of reservation made for our buffet. So more or less we gauge from year after year. Kalau for example, if we're going to serve 300 people, this is just the exact amount of food, more or less, that maybe we can have, kalau the waste tu maybe lesser and lesser every year, because we know how to gauge it.
Right.
So example, kalau kita masak, kata let's say now we are cooking this rendang 20 kilo, and we know 20 kilo with a bit of this, a bit of that and other stuff, more or less kita ada just leftover sikit saja. So that's why we gauge by our own experience of the public's eating habit, and then by the reservation, and then we also make a bit more slightly, yang kadang-kadang kita rasa, maybe if there is another 10% coming in, 20% coming in, who are big eaters, so perhaps we don't have enough, then we must have slightly a bit more than that. So anything that left over, sometimes certain dishes can be kept in the fridge, macam like emergency thing. For example, we're making this gulai ayam, gulai something that can be kept overnight in the fridge, just like because you don't have to throw them in the waste.
You mean you're talking about paste itself, ataupun the whole lauk
the whole
itself?
cook, because sometimes certain lauk yang kita cook macam kuzi, daging, ayam sedang, you can simpan overnight, provided the minute kita masak, kita cool it down and kita chill it immediately. So that's why, and that time, masa tu kita kena faham lah all the sanitation, personal hygiene, how to take care of the makanan, to cover them, to store them, to cool them immediately, so that bacteria tak tumbuh, tak grow dalam makanan tu semua, and store them in a proper temperature of fridge and all that, and then so that tomorrow it can be used. So just in case kalau kita perlukan benda tu last minute, it's there for us to reheat balik lah.
Over time, when we celebrate Hari Raya or even Ramadan or any other festive period, buffets are the main thing, right? People will be pushing out buffets apart from set meals. Do you think that is actually the issue of overindulgence?
Okay, nak kata overindulgent tak payah tunggu buffet lah. Kalau kita masak lebih kat rumah, if you cook something extra pun, you go to restaurant also, you will not order 1 or 2 dishes lah. You will order 3 or 4 dishes.
That's right.
But as long as you can finish the dish, it's fine. As long as you have the appetite to eat untuk ni, it's fine. Wan cakap selalu, eating dengan cara responsible. For example, there were many days when I just buka puasa with just a bit appetizer je. A bit of kerabu, a bit of that, a bit of salad, green salad, and then maybe I have a piece of bread with my soup. I didn't even touch the main course. You get me not?
Yep.
And Ramadan, I will lose weight like 3-4 kilo easily. And by intermittent fasting pun last couple of months, from where I was before 83, 84 kilo, now I'm only 75.
Right.
Because why? Because I make sure that I eat the right way.
Right. But then,
And it's not about the value.
Okay.
It's about your eating habit.
Alright.
So kita jangan, macam orang Melayu kata, jangan salah lantai tu jongkang-jongkit, kan, kita yang nak menari ni salahkan, tapi it's kita, sikap kita.
Right.
Just because kita bayar buffet that harga does not mean we need to eat everything that's there, or ambil everything yang kita rasa kita tak boleh habis, or whatever we put in on the plate, we have to be responsible that we can eat it. Because don't forget, whatever we take and put on the plate is also, taking something that also belong to others yang sepatutnya boleh makan tapi dah tak ada.
And speaking of experiences, maybe I'm going to point this question to you, Ahmad. Raya is synonymous with Maaf Zahir dan Batin and the practice of seeking forgiveness. So how can these values be applied to ease tensions that Amalina previously spoke about?
Well, this should not just apply to Muslims, I would say. So Raya, when it comes to forgiving each other, I think it should apply to all Malaysians, because that's the theme basically of Raya. So I think it's a great opportunity even for politicians, more so for politicians, to use this festive season to forgive each other and probably start a new chapter instead of harping on these political issues that they have been harping on for the last God knows how long, right? So Raya is the one time where it would be nice for us, the public, to see politicians to at least tone down a little bit on their political rhetorics, like you mentioned earlier, and seek forgiveness among each other. That would be really a nice thing to see, I would say.
Do you, like Farah, do you have potlucks and having people over to your house?
Do you cook?
I don't cook, and unfortunately, I don't know how you're gonna take this, but over the last 10 years, I would say, since I started working, last 15 years or so, 15 years, yeah, because I started in 2010. I am one of those unfortunate people who always had to work on the first and second day of Raya.
Because your kampung is in KL?
Yeah, because I live here, and that's usually, the narrative that people throw. Oh, Muhammad's here. He's just going to celebrate Raya.
I feel
here,
because my kampung is in PJ.
Okay.
So every year, the first day, but only for this year.
So it's not too bad because I still get to celebrate Raya in the morning, because I think that's the most important part of the first day of Raya, right? So I get to do that, and then and then I go to work noon onwards, so it's not too bad.
But also, people can look forward to seeing you later in the night to read the news.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether they do look forward to seeing me, but yeah, well.
Of course they do.
Oh, well, okay.
Okay, I mean, but if you would have to sum up the Raya for this year in one word, what would it be?
Wow. Okay. Never. You caught me off guard. What would it be? I think this year is going to be slightly more interesting for me because of some new development in my life, which I'm not going to share it here. But there's a relatively interesting new development in my life for this year. So Raya is going to be slightly different for me this year, lah.
Okay, well, hopefully we can find out
soon, inshallah.
Now, let's shift gears a little and talk about how Malaysians are spending during the festive season. So it's all about the kaching, right? Looking ahead to 2025, how do you see, Muhammad, I'll start with you first. How do you see Malaysia's festive spending trends shifting?
Well, if you're talking about a shift in consumer spending among Malaysians, I would say that to a certain level, we are definitely seeing to a certain level that people are more cautious over their spending because of the global uncertainty stemming from the US, the erratic economic policies by the US President Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And apart from that, concerns surrounding cost of living in Malaysia itself. So we're seeing cautious spending among Malaysian consumers generally. But you also have to remember that Malaysians generally, regardless of the economic situation, generally Malaysians love to spend. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it becomes a slight concern when because most of these spenders come from the B40 group, so it becomes a concern when they spend beyond their means. But generally, we want people to spend because that is what props up the country's economic growth in the first place. So in terms of shift, I would say it's not so much coming from whether they get extra cash in hand from higher dividend payouts or cash aids from the government, but it's more the shift that we're seeing is more shopping online versus shopping for Raya clothes from brick and mortar retail outlets.
So because of that accessibility, do you think Malaysians still need to work on their financial literacy or at least self-control in this sense? Is it better to do it during Raya or even post-Raya?
It's definitely better to do it anytime, really. But the question is whether Malaysians can really pull it off. That is the bigger question, I would say, because the more convenient it is for people to buy stuff, at your fingertips, the more challenging it is to impose self-control in that sense. So cautious spending, sure, but at the same time, we see e-commerce or online shopping transaction volume is surging, and it has been surging over the last 5 years or so, particularly since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, where it was like a crash course for everyone to start, shop online, including people who never bat an eye before the COVID-19 pandemic, never bought anything online. But now most people, I would say a majority of the Malaysian population are very used to shop online.
But consumerism has taken place in that sense. I mean, to the extent that it's like there's no limitation.
That is right.
Yeah.
And you highlighted that the biggest spending group out of all of this is the B40. Not necessarily is it just because that they make up the biggest cut of the population, or is it that they are spending so much? And I'm trying to allude to why they are spending too much. Is it because of the online spending? They now have access to the BNPL, or buy now, pay later. Can you just talk us through, how that's changing and how it could be detrimental to this particular income group?
I think NST, we just published a report on BPNL, buy now, pay later. A report on a large majority of the BNPL users come from the B40 group, who opt for personal financing through BNPL instead of from traditional banking, because it's harder for them to get personal financing from traditional banks. It's more the rules are more strict. But the BNPL, as of now, is still loosely regulated. Right. The regulators are sitting down together, the SC, Securities Commission, Bank Negara, and also Ministry of Finance, to formulate the best policy for BNPL, because it's quite concerning. According to the report, over 70% of BNPL users who opted for personal financing in 2024 were people from the low income brackets.
Right.
And what does this tell you? It tells you that these people are spending beyond their means, So that is where it could be a concern. But as of now, I would say that generally the situation is still under control relatively, but it's something that you cannot turn a blind eye to. Something that is why we have the regulators sitting down together to formulate the policy.
Also the CCB, right?
Yeah, the committee task force.
Right.
And I think also during Raya, I think it's going to be more concerning during this festive season, because why? People tend to have this mindset that, okay, Raya is only once a year. Why not?
We go all out.
We go all out.
Yeah.
So hence, it's going to be more...
It's the YOLO mindset.
It's a YOLO mindset.
Yeah. YOLO mindset.
Yeah.
It's a cool mindset. However, we have to be more cautious about it.
That's right.
Yep.
No, the whole idea of the consumerism, without having to understand there is a limit to every single thing that we do, our actions. And do you think, I just thinking out loud here, there should be more accountability from the retailers' point of view, Ahmad?
Absolutely not. You have to know that these businesses are profit making machines. They want to squeeze as much as they can from the consumers, whether or not it's the festive season or not. And then Hasbin rightly asked earlier, why do B40 people in the B40 group spend beyond their means or spend more than other people from other income brackets? For me, one simple answer to that is it makes them happy. Spending makes people happy. So it's a source of happiness for the B40 people in the B40 group. When you spend, it makes you happy, and oftentimes it leads you to spending more than you should. So that's the scenario that we're seeing, because based on empirical evidence that we have witnessed specifically during the COVID-19 pandemic, if you still remember, most physical shops had to be closed during the MCO. But when you look at online transactions,
Sales are soaring.
yeah, transactions spike to
Yes.
record highs. You know, people spend. This is despite the fact that you hear chatter about, oh, people are losing their job, they are experiencing pay cuts and things like that. But when you look at consumer spending, it was growing, you know, at the same time.
I do agree.
And how does that happen? It happened because you know, with the extra cash that they get from loan moratorium by banks and also cash aid by the governments, you know, so they have cash in hand and they just spend, you know.
Yeah, and you have to remember, it's also during that period, we had like 2 withdrawals from KWS.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, like you, I kind of find myself wondering as well. You know, sometimes I head over to the supermarket or to the mall and I see hordes and hordes of people.
I know.
This is such a big crowd and they're spending a lot. I mean, in either hand, they're carrying at least 2 or 3, you know, carry bags.
Yeah.
So it does make me wonder, while people are complaining about rising cost of living, and, you know, the salary wages has not kept up with the inflation. I do wonder how it is people are able to spend that much.
Yeah.
No, it's true, because it's the same argument as like we're talking about when we don't have access to you know, sometimes higher education, hard to spend money to pay for higher education,
Right.
but you see people actually traveling out
Yeah.
to other regions, right?
Yeah.
And these are young ones.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to financial planning, it's a whole top to bottom sort of approach that we need to address. For instance, earlier we mentioned about B40 having to spend more. How ironic is that, right? But they want to do that because it gives them the satisfaction and gratification that they have a choice to buy. So that is
Although they
very
have
rewarding.
that lining up for
Yeah,
them.
but then they also need guidance.
Yeah.
So hence my question when I asked, should retailers be more accountable? If not, then where do we turn to?
I think the onus is not on the retailers. I think it's on probably I don't know, the government maybe, to create more awareness for Malaysians to be more prudent in their spending rather than retailers, because you can't expect the retailers to be telling the people, hey, you should, you know, slow down with your spending. Of course, they want them to, you know,
To spur economic
spending,
growth in that sense,
because
okay.
that's where they get their profits from,
Yeah.
right, in the first place. So more awareness programs, I would say, to educate Malaysians in terms of spending more wisely, you know, especially given the volatility in the global market that we're seeing today. You know, anything can happen. The thing about volatile global market is that although it does not have a direct impact on consumers on the consumer level, but this nothing good comes out of a negative sentiment. You know, it will have an effect. It will have an effect on the businesses, and that will in turn lead to a lesser extent, it will have an effect on the consumers as well. You know, when businesses are affected by higher tariffs, for example, prices are going to go up, and then that's going to impact consumer spending at the end of the day anyway. So so people have to be more cautious with their spending, with all of these at the back of their head, instead of going on a shopping spree, impulsive buying.
That's true. And
know.
and yeah, I would
Yeah,
like to
impulsive.
second Ahmad on that. Talking about your own, you know, you have to be more responsible about your finances, because I don't know about the both of you or you, Amalina, but I don't actually have a credit card because, you know, I've learned my
Same.
lesson. No, yeah.
I don't trust myself.
I exactly. So I learned my
Do you
lesson
have
very
one?
early on.
You do.
Unfortunately, I do. I got
This
bills
one,
to
right?
pay. Yes.
No, just one.
This one. Okay.
When I was in my
No,
early
but it's good.
20s, without giving away my actual age now, but yeah, some time ago, in early 20s, I was very responsible with my
It doesn't
finances.
look like it's some time ago.
Okay. He wants to be invited to your open house.
Back on.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, I learned my lesson the hard way, and I found myself in quite a bit of debt in my early 20s. I was just like, especially towards the end of my 20s, I was just paying off debt, and most of it was just interest being charged, not even trying to settle the principal
principal
debt.
amount.
Right. So for me, accountability, your self-accountability must, come first. Otherwise,
I agree.
I was just asking around. I just want to make a credit card actually, so it's not a good move.
Maybe you should start with BNPL.
I wouldn't. I think it's a personal choice.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
I don't have anything against anyone who does
Yeah.
want to opt for it, but it's just that I feel like I can't control myself.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to set your priorities right.
Yeah.
You
True.
know, if
It's
it's
true.
not your priority, then
Right.
don't have it. But if you think that it helps you, then by all means just use
Right.
it. You know,
Right.
it's not a right or wrong answer
That's right.
when it
yeah.
comes to having credit cards.
We have like less than 5 minutes, but I do want
Okay.
to stress on this because we're talking about festive period, impulse shopping and buying and everything like that. But did you know that this past Raya or this past festive period, there were a lot of soaring sales when it comes to fireworks, and the police have also approved 5,113 permits for the sale of fireworks and firecrackers from March 1st to 11th. But with that, some consumers do have access to certain fireworks that are probably illegal or within the, I suppose, guidelines. But we see a lot of accidents taking place. Now, I suppose we're doing a PSA here when you're using or when you are handling
Firecrackers,
firecrackers.
fireworks, yeah.
I don't know what you call these.
The firecrackers, I believe, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would think that the fireworks would be the bigger, like
Yeah.
Catherine
Yeah.
wheels or
Yeah.
whatever you
Yeah.
call them.
But
Yeah.
in any case, like you have to be extra careful. Adults, please watch over your children because we do have incidents also taking place during this
and
festival.
while, and just adding to your point, and while yes, the government does have a list of firecrackers that are allowed. But I think the ones that you normally hear about when accidents happen, it involves the ones that are banned. And the one that keeps popping up is the merchant bola. Malay we call it.
Oh, same bulo or bola. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
merchant bulo, the cannon.
Cannon,
the bamboo cannon, which is it's a makeshift. You know, you have to do. It's a
Yeah.
DIY kind of,
Yeah.
which just adds, all the most dangerous elements you can think of really
Yeah.
to this. But yeah, merchant bola. We've heard about the boy who lost his hand.
Finger. Yeah.
Literally got blown off playing with the merchant bola. I think what made it really dangerous was that he put it inside a bottle, and so when it blew, it was so intense that it just
And we hear
Kid
this almost
losses
on a
hand.
yearly basis.
is,
Every
yeah.
year there's
We do.
at least one tragic incident, involving this. So
Yeah, it's something to take note and for us to also always keep reminding about, hopefully less and less of, But anyway, when it comes to Hari Raya and the spirit of Muhibah, again, I would like to address that unity is a particular important point to not take for granted, or at least, throw
Absolutely.
out. Because Malaysia is, as Farah mentioned, we have mix of cultures, we have a lot of communities coming together, us having to understand each other. So why waste that for something that is less?
That's right.
Anyway, I'd like to thank our guests that on set.
And maybe we can have them say their special Hari Raya wish,
yes.
maybe before we go off.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Farah.
Let's start with Farah.
I'd
Yeah.
like to wish Selamat Hari Raya to both of you and to everyone who's watching this. Thank you so much for supporting Beyond the Headlines, and please be mindful of your food. Don't eat too much. And then after you eat, kita go exercise, okay?
Burn off the calories.
Yeah, burn the calories. Yep. Selamat Hari Raya, maaf saya batin.
Right, for me, just a simple Selamat Hari Raya to all Malaysians, whether you're Muslims or you're Muslims or non-Muslims alike. Selamat Hari Raya, and just enjoy the festive season.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ahmad and Farah, for joining us on
Thank you
Beyond the
so
Headlines.
much.
Lovely to have you both here.
Yeah.
Well,
And,
thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to having you both on sometime again. More times, hopefully.
Inshallah, that can
the
be
future.
arranged.
Right. But to our audience, don't go anywhere because we do have a separate segment to wrap up a little bit about entertainment with our NSC Entertainment Editor, Arif Omar. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Now, what's Raya without iconic songs? From P. Ramlee to Saloma to today's TikTok's trending hits. Now, Raya music has evolved so much.
Yes, and some songs bring back childhood memories, while others, well, they make you question, is this a Raya song or a club anthem? So helping us understand this shift in music, we have the expert in entertainment with us today on set, our very own NSC entertainment editor, Arif Omar. Arif, welcome to be on the headlines.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Selamat Hari Raya. Where do you Raya this year?
Oh, I'm a KL person.
KL
so
boy,
Team KL,
Oh,
Yeah,
Team
it's
Raya
Team
KL.
KL.
Now, Arif, of course, like we all love nostalgic sounds and songs such as Dedang Perantau, Suasana Hari Raya, Balik Kampung. All these are classics, right? But of late, we've been seeing a rise, especially when it comes to TikTok or social media songs that have elements of EDM. What's driving this shift in music, do you think?
Well, I think for Raya as a festive season, the perennial favorites have always been all these classics, right? So a lot of people have strong nostalgia for these songs. But at the same time, I think there's a shift in terms of maybe probably from the younger generation as well. They want something different, something that represents them, or something that is a little bit more fresh, right? Because like the traditional songs, there's nothing wrong with them, but maybe for the modern times, we want something that's more fresh and more today. So perhaps that is what's driving artists to sort of come up with something different.
But don't you think like even the trending songs of today have elements of the past? For instance, like Alamak Raya last year, right, from the Fam, right? I mean, the music video also has an element of retro in it. And then even the way they sang it, it's just the delivery or the melody might be more upbeat and updated, but it's very catchy, like how the old songs are represented.
Well, at the end of the day, it's still a Raya song, so you can't stray away from certain things that are that represent Raya, right? Like I mean, in the music videos, you always see in a village, kampung, wooden houses, the bunga api, and all this kind of. So there are certain elements that you cannot run away from because they represent or they signify Raya. So in that sense, I think for the composers or the songwriters, they want to sort of mix or blend modern and traditional elements, so the old and the new. So you get a sort of like a representation of Raya, yes, but at the same time, it's more today in terms of maybe the melody, the beats, or the rhythms. But of course, you have to incorporate like certain traditional, like Malay Asli music, or like the kompang, or certain drums, or even the gamelan or whatever, so that it has that link to what Raya is and the celebration and that nostalgic factor that comes in as well.
Are you of the belief that Raya songs should be more conservative rather than keeping up with trends and being upbeat and catchy? Because I'm asking this because I've seen quite a lot of debate online. Some people who are staunch advocates of keeping it conservative, because of its association with Islam, right? With the month of Shawwal. But I mean, are there any, can we accommodate the changes now, do you think?
I think at the end of the day, there's room for everyone. So on one hand, we shouldn't forget all the traditional classics and what made them classics or legends, the epitome of Raya songs that we all love to hear every year. So we shouldn't forget about that. But at the same time, there is room for new things to come in, as long as they are done. It depends on the intention, right? So if the intention is to do a good Raya song, and you have elements that hark back to the Raya traditions, then why not? Like you can, as we've seen over the past years, there have been Raya songs that mix the old traditions with different genres like hip hop. There's even like rock-centric Raya songs. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's done with the right intention.
Okay.
So we're actually going to this whole drama surrounding Mimi Fly's Serumpun video, right?
Yeah.
I think that was why this particular debate even took place. But Mimi's team actually had a very, I suppose, cool or very great response to it. Free Pass, they come up with a second music video to not stir the pot further in that sense. So have you spoken with the team or what they have said after that whole debacle?
I think what she did was the right thing. Her response was very fast, very quick, and she was cool-headed about it. She didn't take any offense. She didn't sort of fight fire with fire, so to speak. So for her, I think you have to give her some praise lah. Kudos to her for dealing with the situation, I would say in a very mature way, because at the end of the day, she is just coming up with a song and she just wants to share this with everybody. And the song is an upbeat song. It's for everybody to have a good time and to enjoy the festive season. So by what she did, she kept that kind of positive vibe going rather than, like some people, they would backfire. You fight fire with fire and then it backfires and then it just creates more problems.
Right.
So I think from her side also, I think they were, I guess, you certain things happen and you can never expect it to go that way.
Yeah.
But for her, I think she was quite okay with it. Yeah, her response was good lah.
But at least now she's got that deal with AirAsia, right? Or at least the latest campaign came out. I think that more good deals or more good, I suppose, engagements for Mimi Fly. It's nice to see a female rapper, Malaysian rapper, thriving in that sense. And it's very unfortunate that she had to go through that particular hiccup. But I think she bounced back better in that sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For her, the result was good because she dealt with it in a good way. So I guess it's her rezeki lah and karma that.
We want to also talk about, Arif, the big collaborations we're seeing a lot of now, like Nadira and Hale Hussaini's Meriah Lain Macam. It's a really super catchy beat, and in line with this, in being more open to the changes and to these new trends in Raya songs. Do you think collaborations like these help keep Raya songs fresh?
I think collaborations are always a good thing because it helps to get different artists together and they get more creative, they get to share ideas, and we as the viewers or listeners benefit from the creative processes that take place. So in this sense, it also makes sense because all of them have their different fan bases, right? So when they collaborate, they bring more people to the different artists, right? So it's a good thing. I mean, it's like a win-win situation for them. And in terms of certain artists who when they collaborate, maybe there's an age difference, like a more veteran artist collaborating with a younger, fresh artist, or artists that come from different genres or musical backgrounds. When they get together, then it's more interesting, it's more fresh, and it helps everybody, like including the listeners as well.
Yeah, that's right.
What do you think about now? You've got non-Muslims also participating in creating Raya songs and collaborating with traditional Malay artists to appeal to this target market.
Generally speaking, overall, that is actually a great thing to do because at the end of the day, we are Malaysians, all Malaysians, and this type of collaborations and projects actually help to unify the artists, the industry, the listeners, the fans. So overall, I think that is a really good way of building national unity. But again, at the same time, it depends on the intent and the intention behind it. So if the intention is positive and it comes from a good place, why not?
Douglas Lim seems to be having
Yes.
all this like releases. Even during Chinese New Year, he released his own song, right? Is Douglas going into music now? Or, I mean, he's a comedian, he's an entertainer, but is he actually going into
Actually, he from his roots, right? He was actually part of some duo. he came from the singer-songwriter background.
Oh, right. Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Then later on, he branched into acting. I mean, his big break was the Kopitiam sitcom,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
which he wrote the theme song for.
Oh, he wrote that.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I
Yeah.
grew up watching that
Yeah.
that show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Simpler times.
Although I would say that his song is sort of more on the parody side of things, isn't it? Especially the Raya song that he just.
That probably
put
comes from his comedy background, stand-up
true, that's
background.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, it works. It works as a Raya song, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
We're talking about like, sound bites and clickbaits and things like that, but also because we're talking about Hari Raya or the way people compose music nowadays or write music nowadays, it's just for that 5-second time window, right? Because it's for a challenge. Do you think that is actually making the industry or at least songwriting less and less worthy to be praised, I suppose?
Well, I think it depends because it depends on the format. Because for TikTok, everything is short and sweet, right? So to get onto that platform, you sort of behave accordingly. And in this case, if it works, if it brings in the eyeballs or it creates trends, then it will solidify that kind of approach, right? So in this sense, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it remains to be seen. Because at the end of the day, when you talk about music and all that, it's so diverse. There's so much of variety out there, whether it's like the genre or the type of artist and all this kind of things. So I think there is a place for everything, but I think to just look at it from a negative point of view, probably just it needs to have its time to sort of bake and see what happens next. You know what I mean?
Right. Arif, your Raya wish? Special shout out to those watching.
Raya wish. Well, I mean, it's a simple one. Selamat Hari Raya to everybody. And hopefully everybody will have a good time, a good and safe time, especially those traveling. And hopefully everything will go well for each and every one of you out there. And don't give up. Everybody's got problems, but don't give up. There's always a silver lining somewhere. So what I can do is just wish everybody all the best.
Unfortunately, that's the end of this particular episode. I want to thank Arif for being here on Beyond the Headlines, and to our earlier guests, Ahmad, Farah, Chef Wan. And thank you as well to Hazwin for being here on Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you. Always happy to be back here.
And to our audience, if you do like this particular episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to also turn on the notification bell if you haven't already. You'll not only get Beyond the Headlines update, other NST online news reports will be delivered to you. Now, follow us on TikTok, X, Instagram, as well as Threads and Facebook. My name is Amalina Kamal, and I'll see you next week. From all of us here at NST's Beyond the Headlines, we'd like to wish you
Selamat Hari Raya, Maaf Zahir dan Batin.